People often assume that your chronological age determines how your body functions. But geriatric specialists understand that your biological age often tells a different story, especially after 70. In this video, we're looking at a simple 10-second balance test that can reveal important insights about your functional age, a test many doctors use to assess fall risk and overall physical function. This straightforward assessment is increasingly recognized in medical practice as a valuable indicator of how well your body is aging. What's concerning is that many doctors don't routinely evaluate balance during checkups, despite its importance for maintaining independence. The good news is that once you understand where you stand, you can take specific steps to improve your balance, potentially enhancing your quality of life. So if you've noticed changes in your stability or simply want to know how your balance compares to others your age, stay with me until the end of this video. The insights you gain could make a meaningful difference in your daily life. If you're finding this information valuable, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. We share new, potentially life-changing content every day, and your support helps us reach more people who need these solutions. Now, let's begin with a story that might sound familiar. Ambassador Percival Blackwood stood on the marble floor of his bathroom, gripping the edge of his vanity with white-knuckled hands. At 73, the distinguished retired diplomat had addressed the United Nations, negotiated peace treaties in war zones, and dined with presidents. Now, a simple act betrayed him. He couldn't balance long enough to put on his trousers without holding onto something. The realization hit him with crushing force. His body was changing in ways his mind refused to acknowledge. "I'll see a doctor when I return from the charity gala," he promised himself, carefully sitting on the edge of the bathtub to finish dressing. But Percival never made it to that doctor's appointment. Halfway down the grand staircase of the gala venue, his foot suddenly seemed detached from his brain's commands. He lurched forward, tumbling down several marble steps before security could reach him. The injuries he sustained that night required months of rehabilitation, dramatically altering his active lifestyle. You clicked on this video because you saw our thumbnail. Most 70-year-olds can't do this. Perhaps you're wondering if you're among the minority who still can. Or maybe you've noticed subtle changes in your balance, a moment of unexpected wobbling while reaching for something on a high shelf, the instinctive grab for a railing you never needed before, the strange hesitation before stepping off a curb. Research shows that balance naturally changes with age, but poor balance is not an inevitable part of aging. Balance involves complex coordination between your brain, muscles, nerves, vision, and inner ear. When this coordination falters, it often signals specific issues that can be addressed with the right approach. Imogene Whitfield, a retired headmistress of 78, dismissed her daughter's concerns about her stability. "I've never fallen in my life," she declared with characteristic authority. Yet during a routine medical assessment, her physician asked her to perform a simple test: stand on one leg for 10 seconds without support. Imogene couldn't maintain the position for even 3 seconds. This prompted further evaluation, revealing early neuropathy and inner ear issues that could be addressed before a fall occurred. What makes this balance test so revealing is that it integrates multiple body systems: neurological function, musculoskeletal strength, vestibular health, vision, and even cardiovascular efficiency. It's a window into how these systems are communicating with each other. And after 70, this integration becomes increasingly important to maintain. The most concerning aspect is that many seniors mistake balance problems for normal aging, when they're actually signs of specific, often treatable conditions. Changes in balance are worth investigating, as they might be early indicators of health issues that deserve attention. When balance suddenly deteriorates in a senior, medical evaluation is important. Broderick Hollister, a retired orthopedic surgeon of 76, initially attributed his occasional stumbling to bad knees from years in the operating room. His colleagues might have made the same assumption, except for one critical detail: the imbalance was asymmetrical. He consistently leaned to the right, sometimes bumping into door frames on that side only. Medical evaluation revealed the truth. A benign growth was affecting his balance center. "If I'd recognized the warning signs earlier," Broderick later explained, "treatment would have been simpler, with less impact on my daily activities." What many people don't realize is that asymmetrical balance problems, consistently favoring one side or finding one direction more difficult than others, often signal issues requiring investigation. Symmetrical balance problems, while still worth discussing with your doctor, more typically indicate systemic conditions or normal aging processes. Dr. Augustine Merritt, a specialist in geriatric care, explains, "When a patient over 70 reports new balance problems, my first question is always about symmetry. Asymmetrical changes raise flags for conditions that may require specific treatments." Head injuries can also affect balance, even when seemingly minor. Millicent Vanderpool, an elegant widow of 82, experienced a minor bump to her head when her cat underfoot caused a stumble. She never lost consciousness and dismissed the incident. 3 weeks later, her bridge partners noticed she was consistently dropping cards from her right hand and tilting leftward in her chair. Medical evaluation revealed a treatable condition that responded well to prompt intervention. This is particularly important for those on blood-thinning medications, as even minor impacts can have more significant effects that may not be immediately apparent. If you experience a fall or head impact while on these medications, it's worth mentioning to your doctor, even if you feel fine. Transient episodes of dizziness or imbalance deserve attention too. Bartholomew Wellington, a retired mathematics professor of 74, noticed intermittent dizziness when turning his head quickly, lasting just seconds before resolving completely. He mentioned it during a routine physical, prompting his physician to recommend further evaluation. The assessment revealed a treatable circulatory issue that was affecting his balance. For seniors taking multiple medications, another important consideration emerges. Certain drug combinations can affect balance by impacting various brain and nervous system functions. Hyacinth Montgomery, a vibrant 76-year-old painter, began experiencing vertigo and instability 2 weeks after being prescribed a new medication for a persistent infection. The connection wasn't made until she fell in her studio, injuring her wrist. A medication review revealed an interaction that was affecting her balance system. What makes medication-induced balance problems particularly challenging is their tendency to fluctuate, with good days interspersed among bad ones, leading some people to delay seeking help. This is why the 10-second balance test, performed regularly, can provide insight into these changes before more serious problems occur. Even when specific medical issues aren't present, another important factor can manifest through balance changes: cardiovascular fitness. And this is where our 10-second test becomes particularly revealing. While the concerning causes we've discussed deserve medical attention, there are more common factors affecting balance that impact many seniors, and often represent the difference between maintaining independence and experiencing limitations. These factors develop gradually, allowing the brain to compensate until compensation is no longer sufficient. Artemis Beauregard, a former dance instructor of 79, noticed increasing difficulty demonstrating simple positions to her senior students. "I attributed it to joint stiffness in my feet," she recalls, absently rubbing her ankles where the discomfort first appeared. What Artemis didn't realize was that the mild neuropathy developing in her feet wasn't just causing discomfort, it was affecting the sensory information her brain needed for proper balance. Peripheral neuropathy, nerve changes affecting the extremities, impacts many adults over 70, yet many never connect it to their increasing balance difficulties. Dr. Wellington Zhao, a specialist in movement disorders, explains, "Your feet contain thousands of nerve endings that constantly tell your brain about your body's position in space. When these nerves are affected, your brain receives delayed or altered information about where your body is, making accurate balance adjustments more challenging." Some medications can contribute to these nerve changes, including certain antibiotics, cholesterol medications, and blood pressure treatments. Bartholomew Cross, a retired pharmacist of 77, experienced noticeable balance changes after starting a new medication regimen. The connection wasn't made for several months, he explains. "When my doctor adjusted my medications, my balance gradually improved." Inner ear disorders represent another common factor that affects balance in seniors. Serafina Worthington, a retired concert pianist of 75, first noticed the problem while playing Chopin. "The room would suddenly shift slightly, like I was on a gently rocking boat," she describes. It would pass quickly, but left me feeling unsteady. These episodes of positional vertigo, often caused by calcium crystals in the inner ear becoming dislodged, gradually intensified until Serafina found it difficult to bend down without triggering spinning sensations. Before we continue with life-changing solutions, if you're finding this information helpful, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We share new content like this daily, and your support helps us reach more people who need these solutions. What makes vestibular, inner ear, disorders particularly relevant to our 10-second balance test is how they interact with vision. Thaddeus Montgomery, a distinguished 72-year-old architect, could pass the balance test reasonably well with his eyes open but struggled when asked to close his eyes. This pattern suggested his brain was compensating for inner ear function by relying heavily on visual cues, a strategy that becomes less effective in dimly lit environments or at night. Medications can sometimes affect vestibular function or the brain's ability to process balance information. It's rarely a single factor causing the problem, explains Dr. Eliza Thornfield, a geriatric specialist. More often, it's a combination of small changes that together have a more noticeable impact on balance. Nutritional factors create another category of balance influences that the 10-second test often reveals. Remington Blackwood, a former outdoorsman of 81, maintained good balance throughout his 70s despite arthritis. His balance declined after surgery requiring several weeks of limited activity and dietary changes. Evaluation revealed nutritional factors that, once addressed, helped improve his stability. Certain vitamins and minerals play important roles in nervous system function, notes Dr. Octavia Wellington, who specializes in nutritional impacts on health. Ensuring adequate levels can support better balance function in many seniors. What most people don't realize is that the 10-second balance test doesn't just measure balance. It provides insight into how effectively multiple systems are working together. This integration is crucial for maintaining stability and preventing falls. But there's another aspect to consider, one that involves how your daily habits and activities affect balance in ways that aren't always obvious. Perhaps the most limiting misconception about balance after 70 is the belief that declining stability is simply inevitable, something to accept rather than address. Copernicus Fleming, a distinguished astronomer of 77, held this view until a conference in Stockholm changed his perspective. I was having dinner with a Finnish colleague, Juhani, who was 82, and watched in astonishment as he dropped his napkin, bent swiftly to retrieve it, and straightened up in one fluid motion without touching the table for support. I couldn't remember the last time I'd been able to do that. This moment of recognition revealed an important truth. Chronological age alone does not determine balance capacity. While certain aspects of the balance system naturally change with age, the significant differences between individuals of similar age demonstrate that much of what we attribute to normal aging is influenced by lifestyle, activity levels, and specific health factors. Another common misconception involves the relationship between balance and strength. Evangeline Blackstone, a retired attorney of 74, faithfully performed leg strengthening exercises after her doctor suggested weak muscles were causing her unsteadiness. My leg strength improved considerably, she notes, but my balance showed only modest improvement. What Evangeline's physician hadn't fully explained is that after 70, balance often depends not just on muscle strength but on coordination, reaction time, and sensory input, all of which requires specific types of training. This timing element explains why some physically strong seniors still struggle with the 10-second balance test. The test measures not just strength but also neurological coordination, which requires different approaches than building muscle mass. Perhaps the most limiting misconception involves over-reliance on assistive devices. Montgomery Beaufort, a dignified former judge of 83, began using a cane after minor knee surgery. The physical therapist gave it to me as a temporary measure, he recalls. But 2 years later, I was still using it, and my balance without it had declined further. What Montgomery experienced reflects a principle called learned non-use, the body's tendency to adapt when a function goes unused for extended periods. While assistive devices provide important safety benefits, Using them continuously without appropriate balance exercises can lead to increasing dependence. This is why proper balance rehabilitation typically includes gradually decreasing reliance on assistive devices as stability improves. Misconceptions about testing itself create additional challenges. Wilhelmina Harrington, a retired school administrator of 76, could pass the 10-second test on her right leg but consistently failed on her left. My doctor said that was typical for my age, she recounts. 3 months later, Wilhelmina fell while stepping off a curb with her left foot, injuring her hip. The asymmetry might have indicated an issue that could have been addressed with appropriate exercises. This points to an important consideration about balance assessment. It should be comprehensive, ideally testing both legs and under different conditions. Performance differences between these conditions can reveal specific areas to target with exercises. Another factor involves anxiety about falling. Constantine Whitaker, a former firefighter of 79, developed significant concerns about falling after witnessing a friend's injury. I became so worried about falling that I'd tense every muscle when standing, he explains. Ironically, this tension actually made me less stable. This fear-tension cycle can create a self-fulfilling situation, as rigid posture and shallow breathing negatively impact the very balance mechanisms needed to prevent falls. For self-assessment, understanding typical performance by age can be helpful. While most adults under 60 can maintain single-leg stance for 30-plus seconds, expectations change with age. By 70, 20 seconds represents good function. At 80, 10 seconds becomes a reasonable benchmark for preserved balance capacity. To properly perform the test yourself, stand near a counter or sturdy chair for safety, but don't touch it unless necessary. Lift one foot approximately 6 inches off the floor, bending the knee slightly. Begin timing from the moment your foot leaves the floor until you either need to touch something for support, move the standing foot, put the raised foot down, or open your eyes if attempting with eyes closed. Compare your results to age-appropriate expectations, and most importantly, track changes over time. If you find this self-assessment revealing or concerning, consider the effective approaches we're about to explore. When Theodosia Blackwell, 73, a retired botanist with a passion for rare orchids, found her balance declining, her initial medical advice was simply to be more careful. Dissatisfied, Theodosia sought specialized help and discovered something encouraging. Targeted exercises improved her balance from just a few seconds to over 20 seconds on the test within several weeks. 3 months later, she successfully tended her entire garden without needing to hold onto supports for the first time in years. Let's start with one of the most effective approaches, proprioceptive training. This specifically addresses the age-related changes in position sense that contribute to balance challenges after 70. Cornelius Wellington, a retired professional of 78, describes his experience. My therapist had me stand on a foam pad in my stocking feet for 2 minutes, 3 times daily. It felt quite wobbly at first, but within 2 weeks, I noticed I was automatically making small adjustments that had previously required conscious effort. This simple exercise works by enhancing the feedback signals from feet to brain, essentially improving position sense. The unstable surface encourages adaptation that transfers to improved stability on regular surfaces. For those with more significant balance challenges, the progression can begin with exercises performed seated on a cushion, gradually advancing to standing with support, then brief periods without support. Vestibular exercises represent another valuable approach, particularly for those who experience dizziness or whose balance worsens with head movements. Euphemia Hargrove, a former dance instructor of 79, experienced position-related dizziness after an illness. The specialized therapist taught me a sequence of head movements that initially made me somewhat dizzy, she recalls. But after practicing this sequence daily for 2 weeks, my symptoms improved considerably and my balance became much more reliable. These specialized movement protocols, different for various vestibular conditions, can often improve inner ear-related balance issues effectively. For many seniors, just a few sessions with a knowledgeable therapist create improvements that significantly enhance daily function. Nutritional support plays a role that many conventional approaches overlook. Bartholomew Thatcher, 76, a retired professor, experienced gradual balance decline despite regular activity. My doctor recommended I ensure adequate levels of certain nutrients, he explains. After several weeks of appropriate supplementation, my single-leg stance time improved noticeably. Key nutrients that support balance function include vitamin B12, vitamin D, and magnesium, all of which play roles in nervous system health. Discussing appropriate testing and supplementation with your healthcare provider can help identify if nutritional factors might be contributing to balance challenges. Medication review represents another important consideration. Winifred Blackwood, a sharp-witted former librarian of 81, took multiple medications when her balance suddenly worsened. My doctor did something very helpful, she explains. She reviewed all my medications and made some adjustments to reduce those that might be affecting my balance. This process revealed that one of her medications was contributing to her balance difficulties despite causing no obvious dizziness. This methodical approach to medication management, sometimes called medication review, often identifies specific medications that might impact balance. Common examples include certain sleep aids, some antihistamines, and various other medications that can affect the nervous system. Specific balance challenges require targeted solutions. Clementine Stratford, 74, maintained good balance while standing still but struggled when walking on uneven surfaces. My physical therapist designed a program using increasingly challenging surfaces, she explains. We started with stable surfaces in the clinic, then advanced to walking on foam mats, and finally uneven surfaces. Each surface required different adjustments that I needed to practice. This principle of specificity, training the exact balance challenges you face in daily life, creates improvements that generic exercises may not address. Whether your challenge involves carrying objects, navigating stairs, managing in low light, or moving through crowded spaces, specific training for these scenarios produces the most functional improvement. Supportive footwear offers additional benefits, particularly for those with more significant challenges. Montague Fitzwilliam, 77, found that proper footwear made a substantial difference in his stability. Having shoes with proper support and a secure fit improved my confidence and stability immediately, he explains. Appropriate footwear provides a stable base of support and can enhance the sensory information from your feet to your brain. For those committed to comprehensive improvement, combining these approaches creates benefits that exceed what any single intervention can provide. And unlike many aspects of aging, balance function often responds well to targeted exercise, providing renewed confidence and expanded possibilities within weeks rather than months. But there's one final aspect to consider that ties everything together, a dimension of balance function that represents the difference between those who maintain independence well into their 80s and beyond, and those who don't. 6 months after discovering his balance had declined, Ambassador Percival Blackwood stood confidently at a community presentation demonstrating the transformation that proper balance training had created. At 73, I've significantly improved my stability and confidence, he announced to the audience before performing a modified balance exercise that showed his progress. But more importantly, I've reclaimed the confidence to participate fully in activities I love, which is what truly matters at any age. Percival's journey illustrates the ultimate goal beyond fall prevention, achieving what specialists call functional confidence, a state where balance becomes reliable enough that you can focus on enjoying life rather than constantly worrying about potential falls. This confidence doesn't just improve safety, it fundamentally enhances how each day is experienced. The path to long-term success begins with understanding that balance is a skill that requires maintenance. Like any skill, it responds to regular practice structured according to established principles. Winthrop Montgomery, a methodical former professor of 81, applied this understanding with encouraging results. I created a regular program, gradually increasing difficulty as I improved, he explains, showing the journal where he tracked his improvement from just a few seconds to nearly half a minute over several months. The key was consistency and gradual progression, never advancing too quickly, but never staying too comfortable either. This structured approach addresses a common mistake: practicing only what you can already do well. Effective balance training requires working at an appropriate challenge level, where the task is challenging enough to stimulate improvement but not so difficult that proper technique becomes impossible. This principle explains why simply walking, while beneficial for many aspects of health, may not significantly improve balance in those already experiencing challenges. The dual task dimension represents another important component of maintenance. Theodora Kensington, a vibrant former professor of 77, could balance reasonably well when focusing solely on that task, but would become unsteady when attempting to carry on a conversation simultaneously. My rehabilitation included practicing balance while performing simple mental tasks, she explains. Initially, it was quite challenging, but gradually, my balance became stable enough to remain reliable even when my attention was divided. This cognitive dimension explains why some seniors experience difficulties despite having adequate physical capacity for the movements involved. Their balance requires conscious attention that becomes unavailable when distracted by conversation, making decisions, or navigating unfamiliar environments. Successful maintenance means balance remains stable even when cognitive resources are directed elsewhere. For those with specific medical conditions, customized approaches yield the best results. Montgomery Blackwood, 77, found standard balance exercises minimally effective until working with a specialized physical therapist. She incorporated approaches specific to my needs, he explains. This targeted approach improved my stability significantly, even during more challenging periods. The environmental dimension involves optimizing your physical surroundings without becoming overly dependent on them. Arabella Thornfield, an experienced interior designer of 79, approached her home thoughtfully. I created what I call strategic assistance, environmental elements that provide support when needed but don't require constant use, she explains, demonstrating how her bathroom design includes well-placed supports that provide assistance during challenging transitions without requiring their use for routine movements. This approach supports independence while providing safety, a balance that many seniors and their families value. Finding this middle ground, homes with appropriate safety features that still allow for natural movement, supports long-term function and independence. Proper footwear represents another essential element of the maintenance framework. Archibald Wellington, a distinguished former professional of 83, experienced a balance breakthrough after consulting a footwear specialist. I'd been wearing very cushioned shoes thinking they were appropriate, he explains. The specialist helped me understand these were actually reducing the sensory information from my feet and potentially affecting my stability. Transitioning to more appropriate footwear with good support and fit improved his balance notably by enhancing foot awareness and allowing natural foot mechanics. Nutritional support for balance maintenance includes ensuring adequate protein for muscle maintenance, appropriate hydration for overall function, and consistent intake of nutrients that support nervous system health. Maximilian Thornwood, a vibrant former chef of 84, attributes his good function partly to his lifelong eating habits. I've consumed a varied diet rich in different nutrients throughout my life, he notes. Current research suggests these dietary patterns support the systems that maintain balance as we age. Perhaps most encouraging is how balance improvement creates positive effects throughout the body. Improved stability leads to greater activity, which enhances cardiovascular health, strengthens bones, supports metabolism, and elevates mood. These improvements further support balance, creating an upward cycle of function that extends beyond the balance system itself. As Ambassador Blackwood concludes his presentation, he shares a final insight. The 10-second test didn't just reveal my current balance status, it offered me the opportunity to improve it. That's the value of understanding what this simple assessment means, not an indication of inevitable decline, but an invitation to take specific steps toward better function. If you're finding this information valuable, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. We share new, potentially life-changing content every day, and your support helps us reach more people who need these solutions. If this information has helped you understand the importance of balance assessment and training after 70, please take a moment to share this video with someone you care about. Many people don't realize that balance can be improved at any age with the right approaches. And remember, it's never too late to enhance your balance. Your body's remarkable capacity for adaptation remains present throughout life. The question isn't whether you can improve, it's whether you'll begin the journey that could significantly enhance your daily life. Please share your thoughts in the comments if you've experienced something like this. Your story could help someone else realize they're not alone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified when our next video goes live.